So I searched Christian quotes on Google Images in the hopes of finding 5 that needed a little bit of biblical tweaking. I was not disappointed. Interestingly enough, a lot of these quotes also came from Pinterest, so step it up, Pinterest. I'm kind of disappointed. These 5 quotes could be put into 3 categories. The first is forced cutesy wordplay. The second is taking something that happens some of the time and applying it authoritatively to every single situation. And the third is a good old spiritual self-esteem boost. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by each of those, don't worry, because you're about to see some examples. Your talent is God's gift to you. What you do with it is your gift back to God. Yes and no. Like, I get what you're trying to say, but you kind of missed the mark a little bit. A gift is something that you don't deserve, unlike rewards or wages, which is something you do deserve. Grace, talents, opportunities, blessings, these are all gifts. But the stewardship of our talents and even the stewardship of our lives is all one big act of worship to God. So it's not really a gift if He deserves it all. Psalm 29 says to ascribe praise to the Lord, meaning attribute it to Him, give it to Him, it's already His. Revelation 4 says He's worthy of all our praise, and Hebrews 12 says we show gratitude through service. Now, I'm not going to be too hard on this one because it looks like they just didn't really think about the meaning of the word gift. I don't think they meant that God doesn't deserve our praise, but that is what they implied. We will never change the world by going to church. We will only change the world by being the church. That has to be the most pretentious thing I've heard in a while. I'm gonna get a little technical here. This quote is similar to the preach the gospel quote in that they both create an unnecessary separation between words. The other quote separated preaching and words when in the Bible preaching always meant words. It's the same thing here. What if I told you that being the church meant going to church? Another similarity that these two quotes have is that both aspects of the quote are true. So why would you deny the power of one and proclaim the power of the other? Going to church means being fed spiritually, enjoying fellowship, and serving. It's where you get equipped and built up to go out into the world. And being the church means loving others through your actions and setting an example in your love for God and others. At least that's what I assume the author meant by being the church. I mean, that can mean a lot of things, and to be honest, I don't think the author even really knew what they meant by it. This next quote is by Stephen Furtick, so I'm going to do my best Stephen Furtick impression. The only way God can show us He's in control is to put us in situations we can't control. Kinda think I nailed that, to be honest. The only way? I mean, that's true for the most part, but those 3 words though. What if God gives you something you didn't really know you needed until later? Say there's an unbeliever who thinks he has his life under control, but then God, through His providence, sovereignly orchestrates his salvation. Well, that doesn't really fit the bill because they felt like they were in control before God showed them He was in control. God has never-ending power. Isaiah 40:28 says His understanding is inscrutable, it's unsearchable, it's unfathomable, it's infinite, we can't even begin to understand it. Isaiah 55:9 also echoes a similar idea. I'm sure God has countless ways He can show us He's in control. So why would we as little humans just limit Him to that one way? I realize I'm starting to sound like one of those people that's like, don't put God in a box when you tell them how He operates biblically. The difference here though is that there's no scriptural support to just put Him in that one box. Joseph waited 13 years. Abraham waited 25 years. Moses waited 40 years. Jesus waited 30 years. If God is making you wait, you're in good company. Here's a little warning. It's flawed to think that all the people in the Bible got/did awesome stuff after waiting for God, or that their waitings were always satisfied. Hebrews 11, which mentions Abraham, Moses, and Joseph, says you might die waiting. Moses, yeah, he waited 40 years. He led the Israelites to the promised land, where he had to deal with them being really whiny all the while. But he never entered the promised land because he dishonored God by disobeying a direct commandment. You might wait your whole life for something that never happens. You die, and that part of your life is unfulfilled. But as Job learned, God is still good, and you will be fulfilled in your heavenly home. The second problem with this quote is that you are not these people. The Bible is about God, and these were all fathers of God's chosen people from whom Jesus came. These were all huge spiritual leaders that were brought along to point to Jesus. There would be one Joseph, one Abraham, one Moses, and one Jesus. I kind of hoped you already knew the last one. Abraham was the chosen great-grandfather of Israel. He waited for a son to carry on the bloodline and make him a father of many nations, as God promised. Joseph was the father of 2 tribes of Israel. He waited to save Egypt and his family from a famine. Moses was chosen by God to lead the Israelites out of Egypt to the promised land, and he waited to enter it. We trivialize the magnitude and uniqueness of these characters when we put ourselves into their shoes, or sandals. Abraham waited 25 years. I waited 25 years to get married. Joseph waited 13 years. I waited 13 days for my fidget spinner to arrive in the mail. Moses waited 40 years. I waited 40 seconds this morning for my Pop-Tart to fully toast. In all seriousness, this quote is partly true when it says that we can relate to Bible people that waited for big moments in their lives. But the similarity ends when you equate big promises that God made to his chosen people that will go down in history to whatever it is you're waiting for in your life. Be brave! God gives the hardest battles to the bravest soldiers. In the words of the wise Chuck Testa, no. Hebrews 11 is the chapter in the Bible that most notably contains the heroes of faith. Except the emphasis in this passage is not on courage, but faith and reliance on God. In Dwight Schrute fashion, I'm going to throw in a really random fact here. A drowning 5-year-old could crush your jugular. Or for that matter, they could just take you down with them. And when I say you, I mean like a grown man. See, when you're holding on to something and you're that desperate and it's all you have, you kind of cling to it with all your life. When you start to realize how weak you are, you run to the one person that you know can give you strength. And not just run to, but hold on for dear life. Nobody in Hebrews 11 was really awesome on their own. When God told Moses to go to Egypt, he kept asking him for signs. And then finally when God got him to go, he didn't want to talk at all. So they got his brother Aaron to do it. Just throw it all on the brother. Get him to do it. Wish that kind of thinking worked at home. Abraham wasn't that brave either. When him and Sarah went to Egypt, they pretended that Sarah was his sister because he was afraid that people would notice how beautiful she was and kill him. Gideon kept claiming to be the weakest in the weakest family. And like Moses, he kept repeatedly asking for signs. Finally, when God got him to destroy the statues of Baal, he did it at night when no one was around. After Deborah told General Barak to go to war, he said he would, but only if she came with him. These people didn't do brave things because they were brave. They did brave things because God gave them the courage. This quote is not encouraging because I know deep down inside that I'm not adequate. With man, many things are impossible. But with God, all things are possible. 1 Corinthians 1:27. But God has chosen the foolish things of the world to shame the wise, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to shame the things which are strong. Hey, thanks for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see similar videos, I've posted a few in the past that are not too different. And then once you kind of run out of those, you could just subscribe because I plan to make new ones. Actually, just subscribe now. Alright, it's 2:30 and I haven't eaten lunch yet, so yeah, bye.